For 4,000 years, the Galactic Empire reigned as a symbol of unparalleled peace. Across countless systems, from vast trading planets to the quietest frontier worlds, the Empire maintained an ironclad stability, almost to the point of stagnation. Civilization thrived under their rule. Disputes were resolved by seasoned diplomats, cultural exchanges carefully mediated, and any species that joined the empire was swiftly integrated into its structured, predictable hierarchy. Order was prized above all else, and for eons, no one dared disrupt it. To outsiders, the empire's peace was remarkable, bordering on myth. A few whispers circulated that this peace was less a choice and more a controlled obedience, a peace maintained by empire fleets stationed at every conceivable corner of the galaxy. The races of the empire, while diverse, had come to live in quiet harmony, viewing war as an artifact of ancient, barbaric times. In their eyes, conflict had been tamed, its fires smothered long ago by prosperity and progress. And then humanity arrived. Humans were a young race, inducted into the empire less than 2 decades ago. To most, they were unremarkable, dismissed as quaint. Though advanced by their own standards, humans seemed no match for the power and wisdom of the empire. They were assigned a modest role on the periphery, administering trade routes and supplying raw materials to the empire's vast network. Many species saw them as primitive, curious, perhaps, and even ambitious, but ultimately insignificant. Their military was outdated by empire standards, their technology crude, and their culture restless and unpredictable. Most officials believed humanity would either settle into their role or, like other brash young species, burn themselves out trying. But what the empire saw as human compliance was, in truth, a carefully contained restlessness. Humanity was watching, learning. They adapted swiftly, studying the empire's structure, its strengths, and more importantly, its weaknesses. To the galaxy, they appeared peaceful, eager to prove their place in this sprawling society, and perhaps eager to learn its ways. Yet, underneath, there lingered a simmering resentment, a quiet refusal to submit entirely. Then a spark, a single incident changed everything. On a small, remote colony, deep within humanity's borders, an encounter with an empire envoy went tragically wrong. Details of what happened remain vague, shrouded in whispers and hastily filed reports. Some claimed it was over a mining dispute, with human settlers refusing to turn over a precious mineral deposit discovered on their land. Others murmured about a cultural slight, an act of blatant disrespect toward a human leader by an empire official who saw humans as little more than insects. Whatever the cause, the incident became a rallying point for humans. Rumors spread of the empire exploiting human resources, belittling their customs, and taking liberties with their laws. The empire viewed the matter as inconsequential, a minor dispute that could be resolved with a few diplomatic gestures, perhaps a reassignment of officials, and an apology wrapped in bureaucracy. After all, why would humanity, a small, insignificant species, react to something so trivial? The council saw no reason to worry, until they received humanity's message. The council sat in disbelief, watching the declaration scroll across their holoscreens, each line confirming what they struggled to believe. Humanity had formally declared war on the Galactic Empire. To the aged officials of the council, it seemed absurd, almost laughable. Humanity, a race with no significant military power, no history of large-scale warfare in centuries, and no place in the Empire's strategic calculations, had declared war on an entity that had ruled unchallenged for millennia. Some council members laughed, convinced it was a translation error or a political stunt. A few considered it an attempt by humanity to negotiate better terms through a show of bravado. Others, however, grew uneasy. This was not a request, nor a plea for reconsideration. It was a statement of intent, issued with the formality and finality of a species that had made up its mind. As the declaration was read in full, the room fell silent. The final lines of the message held a cold, calculated warning. Humanity is not what you think it is. In that moment, a shadow passed over the council, a realization too terrible to fully acknowledge. They had misunderstood humanity from the beginning. All this time, they had seen a small, unremarkable species ready to conform, to take its place and live out its days quietly within the Empire's grand design. Now, it seemed they were wrong. The message closed with a note of defiance, a reminder that humanity's history was not one of surrender or submission. They were, the message declared, the descendants of countless generations who had survived on a hostile world, who had overcome countless challenges and fought for every step of progress. They were not pawns to be moved across the Empire's chessboard. They would not be dismissed as insignificant any longer. The council was left with a sense of unease that lingered long after the message faded from their screens. In that single audacious declaration, humanity had shattered the illusion of the Empire's control, planting a seed of doubt and fear that would spread through the galaxy. The Empire's council convened with smug certainty. To them, humanity was little more than a minor disturbance, an upstart species clinging to outdated ideals of independence. Strategists assured the council that humanity could be subdued within a single campaign. Military officials offered projections of swift victory, a show of force here, a light occupation there, and humanity would yield, just as every other race had. This wasn't the first time a young species had bucked against the Empire's rule, but all had ultimately fallen in line. The fleet was assembled, a carefully curated display of the Empire's finest. Massive ships with gleaming hulls, emblazoned with the Empire's insignia, moved through hyperspace with precision. The Empire's forces were polished, controlled, and proud. They were battle-tested, but only in the calculated exercises of peacekeeping. This time, they moved with practiced ease, ready to teach humanity a lesson, not realizing they were about to face a different kind of war altogether. As they arrived at the edge of human territory, the Empire's ships encountered nothing. They waited, scanners sweeping vast empty space, while commanders grew impatient. The humans should have been easy to locate, yet there was no resistance, no sign of defenses. It seemed humanity wasn't even aware of their presence. But then, almost imperceptibly, the first human ships appeared, small, unassuming vessels compared to the Empire's vast warships. Empire strategists laughed, assuming these were scout ships, nothing more. But then, without warning, the human vessels began to strike. The Empire's ships found themselves under sudden, intense fire. Human fighters darted in and out of formation, weaving past the Empire's defenses with impossible speed. They moved unpredictably, seeming to lack any discernible pattern, attacking from multiple angles in a series of coordinated hit-and-run strikes. It was guerrilla warfare on a scale the Empire had never seen before. The Empire's larger ships struggled to target these smaller vessels, and by the time they adjusted their shields and weapons, the humans were already gone, replaced by new waves from another direction. Empire commanders barked orders to maintain formations, but the rigid structure of their fleet only hindered them. The humans exploited every vulnerability with precision, slipping past the defensive grids and delivering calculated strikes to engines and weapon systems. Unlike the Empire's polished approach, human tactics were rough and relentless, born from a survival instinct that bewildered their opponents. The Empire's fleet found itself taking damage at an alarming rate, shields flickering under the sustained onslaught, hulls riddled with small but effective strikes. As the first human assault subsided, the Empire's commanders gathered in the command center, shocked and furious. They demanded answers. How could these primitive ships cause so much damage? Intelligence officers scrambled to explain, but their data was limited. All they knew was that the humans were deploying a mix of stealth tactics, jamming signals, and unpredictable maneuvers that disrupted the Empire's systems. The Empire was accustomed to overwhelming strength, not chaotic ingenuity. Undeterred, the Empire regrouped and prepared to retaliate, vowing to crush these minor nuisances. But humanity was prepared. As the Empire's forces advanced, new waves of human ships emerged from hidden locations, striking with even greater ferocity. The humans had somehow learned to exploit the Empire's vulnerabilities, and they seemed to know the fleet's every move before it was made. Empire ships found themselves ambushed in the very space they thought they controlled. The realization hit the Empire's commanders hard. Humanity was using strategies the Empire hadn't encountered in centuries. The humans didn't adhere to traditional tactics. They understood the Empire's predictability and used it against them, drawing them into traps, isolating key ships, and severing communication lines. Commanders began to feel a gnawing unease as they watched ship after ship fall to the humans' unconventional assault. This wasn't a mere act of defiance. It was a calculated offensive. Frustration turned to disbelief. The Empire had been blindsided, caught unprepared by a species they had underestimated at every turn. Fleet commanders watched in shock as their ships were destroyed by human weaponry that, while lacking the sheer size and sophistication of Empire tech, was deadly precise. Human weapons targeted critical systems, bypassing the heavy armor and focusing on engines and weapon arrays, disabling the Empire's warships with surgical precision. It was as if the humans knew exactly where to strike, as if they had been studying the Empire's ships, waiting for this moment. Empire officers, who once saw humanity as nothing more than an inconvenience, now watched helplessly as their finest fleets were decimated. The humans' tactics weren't just unconventional. They bordered on ruthless efficiency. And as each Empire ship was destroyed or disabled, a grim realization dawned on them. Humanity was not simply a small species rebelling against authority. They were a force unlike anything the Empire had faced, adapting with speed and insight that defied every assumption the Empire had held. Commanders began to panic. Reports of human victories across the battlefield poured in, recounting how human ships would disappear and reappear at will, or how they had somehow predicted Empire movements with eerie accuracy. In private quarters, some Empire strategists whispered what none dared to admit publicly. Humanity was more than they had anticipated. Far from being a fleeting rebellion, humanity had exposed weaknesses in the Empire's rigid structure, exploiting every flaw and turning each skirmish into a strategic win. The human fleet remained relentless, every attack a calculated blow that shook the Empire's morale. In the heat of battle, as Empire commanders attempted to rally their forces, one word lingered in the minds of every officer: fear. They had dismissed humanity as quaint and weak. Now, as they struggled to recover from blow after blow, they saw that they were facing a species whose strength lay not in sheer power, but in a mastery of chaos, a fierce adaptability that the Empire had never prepared for. In the end, the Empire's first encounter with humanity left them reeling, their confidence shattered. The human fleet withdrew just as quickly as it had arrived, disappearing into the vastness of space, leaving the Empire's commanders stunned and humiliated. For the first time in 4 millennia, the Empire had been bested, its forces routed by an opponent they had dismissed as inferior. In the wake of this defeat, whispers spread across the command deck, whispers that hinted at something even more terrifying. Humanity had yet to reveal the full extent of its strength. The spark that ignited humanity's war was no mere misunderstanding. It was a betrayal, a harsh reminder that the Empire saw them as subjects to be used, not equals to be respected. On a remote colony, an incident unfolded that no human would forget. A hidden deposit of rare minerals had been discovered on a human world, and the Empire had staked a claim, declaring the resources essential to its economy. The humans who had settled and nurtured that world were ordered to evacuate, stripped of their rights, without negotiation. When they resisted, Empire forces arrived. What started as a standoff turned into violence, and by the time news reached Earth, Entire communities had been erased in an act of aggression the Empire viewed as a mere procedure. For humanity, it was more than a tragic loss. It was an insult that cut deeply. Leaders across Earth's scattered nations and colonies came together, faced with the realization that peaceful coexistence with the Empire was a facade. Humanity was expected to surrender its sovereignty whenever it suited the Empire. But humans had a history of resilience, born from a world that had constantly tested their strength and unity. This act of imperial arrogance became the rallying point, a catalyst that turned humanity's pride into defiance. They would not bow, they would not yield, and they would not forget. Unlike the Empire, which approached war with cold calculation and strategy refined by centuries of doctrine, humanity's approach to warfare was deeply personal, driven by passion and an unyielding resolve. The Empire's commanders analyzed battles as a series of moves on a board, valuing efficient victory above all else. But humans waged war with something far less predictable, raw emotion. They fought not just for resources or territory, but for the sanctity of their communities, for honor, and for a shared legacy. The Empire couldn't comprehend the potency of these motivators: loyalty to kin, the yearning for justice, and a desire for freedom that transcended mere logic. These emotions, thought the Empire, were primitive, illogical. But to humanity, they were the fuel that transformed strategy into something relentless and powerful. When they went to battle, it wasn't just a calculation. It was a promise to the fallen, a pledge that their sacrifice would be avenged and their rights reclaimed. This was why humanity fought with such ferocity, why their tactics were laced with cunning, and why they kept pressing forward even when others would have given up. What baffled the Empire most was humanity's unity in the face of adversity. Unlike the rigid, homogenized societies within the Empire, human culture was a tapestry of countless nations, languages, beliefs, and traditions. Each faction had its own approach, contributing unique skills, philosophies, and tactics. This diversity was, in the Empire's eyes, a weakness, a sign of disorganization. But when war came, humanity's differences became their strength. Where one group devised stealth-based tactics, another specialized in technological warfare. Where one culture instilled discipline, another fueled tenacity and creativity. Humans pooled their resources, bringing every scrap of knowledge and ingenuity to the battlefield. The Empire had never encountered an enemy with such a capacity for adaptation. Each encounter with humanity revealed new tactics and technologies, as if the humans could change themselves on command, bending and evolving in ways that defied the Empire's logic. Commanders in the Empire, accustomed to uniformity, watched in confusion as human forces improvised on the fly, switching strategies mid-battle, overcoming obstacles that should have stopped them cold. The rigid predictability that had always served the Empire now left them vulnerable to humanity's boundless adaptability. Reports from the front lines made their way back to the Empire's council chambers, where leaders debated endlessly. They could not grasp why humans didn't break under pressure, or why they kept fighting even in the face of overwhelming odds. Some saw it as foolishness, others as desperation. But a few began to sense a deeper truth. This was humanity's willpower at play, something the Empire's leaders could not quantify or manipulate. Despite every setback, every loss, humanity held firm, driven by something the Empire did not understand. In whispered conversations behind closed doors, a few Empire officials spoke frankly, puzzled by humanity's resilience. One wondered aloud why the humans didn't accept peace or negotiate terms rather than face obliteration. Another scoffed, calling it suicidal stubbornness. But an older commander, one of the few who had witnessed humanity up close, offered a different view. Humans, he said, valued things that could not be bought or traded. They fought for ideals, for things unseen but deeply felt. He warned his colleagues that this emotional resolve could not be broken by force alone, that for every human they defeated, another would rise to take their place. It was a concept alien to the Empire, where personal sacrifice for such abstract reasons was almost unheard of. The Empire's leaders, trained to view warfare through the lens of cost-benefit analysis, struggled to understand how humanity could value something as intangible as dignity over survival. They saw only wastefulness in human sacrifice, unable to recognize the strength that lay in it. Humanity, however, saw every loss as a reason to press harder, to push back until their voices were heard across the stars. It wasn't about victory alone. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity would not be erased. And so, humanity's will grew unbreakable, a collective resolve that forged their path through fire and ruin. As Empire forces continued their relentless advance, they expected humanity to falter, to exhaust their strength. But instead, human resolve only deepened. Mothers, fathers, children, entire communities rallied, each contributing in ways the Empire could scarcely believe. Civilians built defenses, researchers developed countermeasures, and soldiers stood together as symbols of resilience. Humanity fought as one, a united force, bound by a promise to honor the fallen and to protect their future. In those final moments before each battle, human leaders addressed their forces not with cold strategy, but with words that reignited their people's unbreakable spirit. They spoke of the colonies destroyed, of loved ones lost, and of the hope that lay beyond the war. They reminded every fighter that they stood not just for victory, but for the right to exist as a free and respected race. As the war dragged on, the Empire began to glimpse the true strength humanity carried. It was a power unlike any they had faced, a spirit forged in humanity's shared history of hardship, survival, and defiance. In the face of an empire that viewed them as nothing more than tools, humanity's unwavering resolve stood as a force that could not be conquered. And as rumors of a final human weapon circulated, the Empire's leaders finally understood. Humanity's strength lay not in their numbers, technology, or strategy. It lay in their hearts, in a will so fierce that it could defy even the most powerful empire in the galaxy. As the war raged on, humanity did something the Empire never anticipated. They began to innovate at an unprecedented rate. The spark of survival ignited an explosion of creativity and adaptation. While the Empire had always relied on stability and predictable superiority, humanity thrived on challenges and change. Laboratories on Earth and scattered colonies buzzed with activity, where scientists, engineers, and even ordinary citizens pushed the limits of their knowledge, creating technology that would turn the tides of war. Human engineers quickly devised new shielding techniques specifically adapted to counter the Empire's weaponry, learning to disrupt the Empire's energy systems and even reflect attacks back toward enemy ships. In a matter of months, they adapted their fleet with nimble ships capable of cloaking temporarily or deploying experimental energy-dispersing fields. Unlike the Empire's massive lumbering vessels, these human crafts were sleek and unpredictable. Their designs reflected human ingenuity, a fusion of quick adaptability and practical functionality. The Empire's analysts were baffled by the rate of advancement, unable to understand how humans could progress so fast without the strict protocols and hierarchies the Empire relied on. Human forces didn't just develop superior technology. They took a bold, multi-front approach to strategy. While the Empire focused on central, coordinated attacks, humanity's forces splintered into specialized units that struck at multiple points in the Empire's territories. Each unit operated semi-independently, adapting to real-time changes on the battlefield. Instead of waiting for approval from Central Command, human captains acted with a level of autonomy that allowed them to react swiftly to new developments. When the Empire's fleets arrived at one location, they found it deserted, only to discover they'd been flanked by human ships now attacking their exposed rear lines. The Empire's commanders, bound to tradition and protocol, were helpless against this fluid and unpredictable style of warfare. And humanity had another advantage: psychological tactics. While the Empire expected brute force, humanity struck at morale. They broadcast intercepted messages and left propaganda in the Empire's language on captured vessels, spreading seeds of doubt among the Empire's ranks. Empire soldiers, trained to see humans as lesser beings, now faced an opponent that challenged them not only physically but mentally. They began to hear stories of human resilience and ingenuity, of soldiers and civilians who fought with a passion and creativity unmatched by any species the Empire had conquered. Rumors of humanity's determination spread across the Empire's ranks, chipping away at their confidence and unity. Soon, even the Empire's council began noticing fractures within their own ranks. Among the Empire's ruling factions, whispers of doubt grew louder. Some officials started to question if humanity was truly the lesser race they'd assumed. Others wondered if this war was worth the escalating cost, especially as losses mounted and resources grew thin. Once so solidly united in their superiority, the council members began to clash over strategy, with some advocating for a truce, fearing that humanity might possess secrets yet unrevealed. The Empire's reputation for invincibility, crafted over millennia, now faced its most profound test. In the midst of these victories, humanity unveiled its most audacious move yet, a secret weapon that stunned even their own allies. On the edge of a contested system, humanity launched a prototype weapon they had dubbed the Resonator. It wasn't merely a weapon. It was a force amplifier capable of unleashing devastating energy waves that bypassed traditional shields and defenses. Designed to exploit the Empire's vulnerabilities, the Resonator emitted a pulsating energy wave that destabilized Empire technology within a massive radius. Systems malfunctioned, communications went dead, and Empire ships drifted, powerless, as humanity's forces descended upon them. The impact was nothing short of cataclysmic. A fleet once considered the pride of the Empire's armada was reduced to a smoldering graveyard. Humanity's forces, smaller and seemingly fragile, picked apart the remnants with ruthless efficiency, delivering a blow that sent shockwaves through the Empire. Word of the Resonator spread rapidly, fueling both awe and dread across the galaxy. It became clear that humanity was not just surviving. They were thriving, creating weapons of a sophistication the Empire could hardly comprehend. For the first time, the Empire's council found itself on the defensive, faced with a force they could not control. The Empire's council convened in tense urgency. What had begun as a minor campaign to subjugate a young species had become a full-blown crisis, exposing vulnerabilities in the Empire's once unchallenged dominance. Council members, once unwavering in their belief that humanity would submit, now realized the gravity of their miscalculation. Reports poured in from across the Empire. Factions began withdrawing their support, and military leaders questioned the very foundations of their strategy. The Council faced a choice: press on against humanity and risk further division, or negotiate, acknowledging that humanity's resolve and ingenuity had won them a place among the stars. As humanity's forces continued to gain ground, the Empire's leaders finally understood the scope of their error. They had underestimated the adaptability of a species that was accustomed to struggle, that had clawed its way from its own hostile world into the stars, bringing with it the wisdom of countless victories and hardships. It dawned on them that, against all logic, humanity's resilience and determination were their greatest strengths. They had faced a species that didn't crumble under pressure, but grew stronger and more resourceful with every challenge. And the Council, in that moment of clarity, realized they were facing an opponent they could no longer control. The final confrontation loomed. After a relentless, drawn-out war, both humanity and the Empire prepared for a decisive battle that would determine the future of the galaxy. On the Empire's side, forces assembled in a massive fleet, a last attempt to reassert their dominance. For humanity, This was not just another battle. It was the culmination of their resistance, a stand to secure a future free from oppression. Tension was thick as humanity's forces prepared, their resolve sharpened by the countless lives lost and the conviction that they fought for freedom, dignity, and the right to exist as equals. As the fleets faced each other in the vast expanse of space, humanity's leaders spoke to their people, urging them to give everything they had. This was their moment, a chance to prove, once and for all, that they would not be broken or subjugated. Across ships and stations, soldiers prepared, each one carrying with them the memories of the fallen and the hope that this battle would secure their future. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to falter now. When the battle began, it was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human forces moved with a precision and unity that defied even their own expectations. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier acted with a single purpose, their tactics honed and sharpened through months of brutal warfare. They adapted seamlessly in the face of the Empire's imposing ships, leveraging their speed and ingenuity. They struck at weak points with surgical accuracy, and where brute force couldn't win, they relied on clever maneuvers and unexpected strategies, turning the Empire's size and rigidity against them. The Empire's fleet, once so invincible, struggled to hold its ground. Humanity's forces had learned every flaw in their armor, every limitation of their rigid formation. The Empire's fleet tried to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers, yet every attempt was met with fierce resistance, every advance turned into a retreat. Humanity's tactical prowess was unmatched. Their strategies evolved beyond anything the Empire could anticipate. And as the hours wore on, the Empire's forces grew weary, while humanity pressed on. Fueled by a tenacity the Empire's commanders could neither predict nor understand. But it was more than just tactics or weaponry that won humanity the day. It was their unbreakable spirit, their refusal to surrender despite the odds. As the Empire's fleet began to falter, their commanders saw, perhaps for the first time, the depth of human resolve. This was not an enemy that would bend or break. Humanity was a force that could withstand any storm, that grew stronger under pressure, that refused to bow even to the greatest power in the galaxy. As the tide of battle turned, the Empire's leaders were forced to confront the inevitable. They had believed that humanity would eventually yield, that this upstart species would crumble under the might of the Empire. Yet here they stood, their resolve unshaken, their forces triumphant. Realizing that further resistance would only result in their complete annihilation, the Empire's council finally made the decision to surrender. In the aftermath, human leaders stood face to face with representatives of the Empire, a scene unimaginable at the start of the war. The once arrogant council members, who had dismissed humanity as inconsequential, now looked on with a mixture of respect and disbelief. They saw in humanity a power and resilience that had shattered the peace of the galaxy, but had also reshaped it, forging a new path toward a future no one had foreseen. Humanity demanded recognition, not as subjects, but as equals. They insisted on formal terms that would ensure respect for their sovereignty and prevent further acts of exploitation. The Empire's leaders, humbled and chastened, had no choice but to agree. For the first time in millennia, they were forced to relinquish their belief in their own supremacy and accept that they were not the only power in the galaxy. Humanity had proven that no species, no matter how young or underestimated, was insignificant. The galaxy was forever changed. Humanity's victory reverberated across countless worlds, a beacon of hope for species under the Empire's rule, a signal that strength and dignity could defy even the mightiest empires. Formerly suppressed races began to see humanity as an example, a symbol of resistance and resilience. The Empire itself was shaken to its core, its unchallenged structure fractured, and a new balance of power emerged from the ruins of war. Where once there had been rigid control, now there was an understanding that cooperation and mutual respect were the way forward. For humanity, This was more than just a military victory. It was the start of a new era, one in which they would be respected as a force in the galaxy. Leaders gathered to honor the fallen and to ensure that the future they had fought for would remain just and equitable. They pledged to use their newfound influence to protect, not to dominate, to build alliances rather than empires, and to ensure that no species would endure what they had. Humanity had not fought merely to survive. They had fought to create a galaxy where all could live with dignity. As the dust settled, humanity stood on the edge of a vast, uncertain future. They had faced the greatest challenge the galaxy could offer and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. Now, with the Empire's shadow lifted, they looked toward the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of a new era. Their story, once one of struggle and survival, had become a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a spirit that would continue to inspire generations to come.